Are we ready? Okay, well, welcome to the Curriculum Committee meeting for the Ridgefield Public Schools. And I welcome everyone who's here. And at this point, I do not think we pledge at the Curriculum Committee meeting, do we? No. So I'm going to start is, we're actually following up from last month's meeting, and a lot of it is just, moving on and talking about some of the things that were planned and some of the exciting work that this amazing administration and faculty and parents and children have all been doing, and just bringing it all to life. So I think that the first thing we want to start with is, this is actually a little bit newer, is the draft of the Chromebook rollout. And I think there's probably a little bit of backstory to that, right?
Yes. So I will start with our series of updates. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Corey Gillette. I'm the assistant superintendent, and I'm joined tonight by Dr. Wes DeSantis and Linda Johnson. Linda Johnson is joining us for the first time as the elementary director. So like Kathleen said, we're going to start by sharing our curriculum updates, and we're going to start with technology. And Dr. DeSantis is going to update us on the technology plan that we've been working on. And before he starts, I want to explain how this connects to curriculum. So when we're thinking about creating curriculum for technology and instruction around technology, we have to first think about what our philosophy is about teaching and technology, and when we believe it's best for children to have devices of their own, and when we think that children should just have some opportunities with devices. So it's a little bit about screen time, but it's really about figuring out what our vision is and what we've learned about best practices for teaching and learning that involves technology, and then crafting a plan to go with that incorporates how children are introduced to technology, when they get to own technology, and then how that really advances. And once we figure out what those stages are, then we can begin to design and update our standards-based curriculum around that. So when Dr. DeSantis is explaining this plan tonight, know that it's just the beginning. It's really laying the foundation for further curriculum development work to come. And second of all, recognize that when a district does have a systematic vision, of course, based on what's best for teaching and learning around technology and who owns what at which grade level, when that's systematized, then it also impacts the budget, because we have a predictable structure for when we need to buy new machines. And I know you've heard Dr. DeSantis talk this year about how we weren't in that structure, that we were, he had machines that were redlined because we only had them a few more months. So not only is this setting the stage for curriculum development to come and digital citizenship instruction for kids, but it's also helping us create a systematic structure that impacts the budget process. So, Dr. DeSantis, I turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is actually not my first committee meeting, but I am glad to welcome Linda. Nice to see you then. And John, do we post on the screen on this committee? Okay.
Yep.
John, if you want to just post my slide up.
Slide 4, please.
This is called wait time.
Silence, yes.
Awkward silence.
It's awkward silence. All right, so there we go. All right, so and all of this was given beforehand, the packet. I always try to get these out to you guys a little beforehand. And it's a little different than the version you got. If you notice, I put in parentheses right after 21-22 Chromebook distribution, building a foundation, which is what I'd like to be doing with this. So first off, I'm just going to go by each section, talk about what's happening in that section, our philosophy behind that section, and how it's going to affect the next section. So K through 3, after meeting with many of the PTA members, administrators, principals and talking to the kids, we feel that the K through 3 group should have access to technology, but it won't be a full one-to-one environment. We call this early technology skills. Each student will have access to the device in the classroom. There'll be a Chromebook cart, or in some fashion, Chromebooks will be easily accessible. However, we will make sure that there are enough units in each classroom if students need to take these devices home for a distance learning scenario. We are really big on understanding what the community wants, what's developmentally appropriate for the children, and we do feel that this is the most appropriate way for them to interact with technology. That means that we're going to be focusing on keyboarding skills, manipulating graphical user interfaces, word processing, the early technology skills that we think children of those age should have. In 4th to 5th grade, and this is hearkening back to pre-COVID, our idea of kind of starting what one-to-one was going to be, we call this the beginning of digital citizenship. This 4th grade will be beginning the actual idea of one-to-one. Student gets a device, they get to take it home, they can do work on it. And this is where we also put at the little bottom of that little kind of teal square, limited learning expectations with the device. I want people to know that this is a gradual growth into learning with technology. 4th grade, they're not just going to be given a device and they say, okay, now you do all your learning digitally. In fact, we don't do that K through 12 here. We want to make sure that we have a lot of different options for our students to interact with their education. But I do want to put it out there that that is the beginning of one-to-one until they get to 6th grade. Before I get to middle school, if you notice, there's a little red bar. 4 through 8, we are going to have the child use a district managed Chromebook. They need to use a district managed device. Currently, we allow BYOD K through 12 because we really just didn't have the resources to do true one-to-one for the distance learning scenario that we're in. We have run into many issues with that, whether it's disciplinary, teachers able to have attention in the classroom with certain projects, and of course, just being able to manage the learning digitally with the different platforms that we use. So 4 through 8, they have to use a district managed Chromebook. And of course, we have many different devices for students that may have special needs, vision impairments. We have large Chromebooks. We have different types of iPads for students that have maybe like auditory vision issues. So we will, of course, as the district, provide all of those items for them. 6th to 8th grade, we call this just regular digital citizenship. This is where those expectations in using the digital platforms are raised gradually throughout 6th grade. We also say that in 6th grade, the students will be given a brand new Chromebook that's going to carry them all the way through middle school into 8th grade. At the end of 8th grade and going into 9th grade, we call this advanced digital citizenship. This is where the child will have the choice of either taking a brand new Chromebook in 9th grade, or they can use their own device in 9th grade all through high school. And of course, they can maybe take the Chromebook in 9th grade and 10th grade, and then they say in 11th grade, hey, I got my MacBook, whatever, I want to use that, they can hand it in. We will also, of course, always have extra Chromebooks on hand in the high school if a student's computer's not working that day, their personal one, they can still get on the digital learning resources. But we call it advanced digital citizenship because we do have to start giving a little bit more leeway and freedom to the student so they can understand, digital self-control, understanding how to use multiple platforms at that age. We just don't want to train them on Chrome. We want them to be exposed to Windows environments, Mac environments, multimedia environments. And we feel that that's the appropriate age to really kind of expose them to all that different learning. And during this entire time, we'll be working with, of course, Linda. We just got a new curriculum person on, Eric Gundell. Corey, we're working with the LLC people to come up with a digital citizenship curriculum, which they've already kind of been developing for years, and also figure out where would the best training would be appropriate in which one of these 4 groups for different types of digital skills. Any questions?
John, you can take this slide down. That'd be great. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I mean, first of all, thank you, Wes. And I think this is wonderful to have something like this saying how we're moving forward after having this year and a half of something that we were thrown into the throes of and that we actually do have a plan, and that technology does have a place, but not the prominent place.
Yeah, I think it's an appropriate place.
Yes.
We are moving forward. I mean, this is the curriculum committee, but I will say that I'm working with Dr. De Silva and Corey Gillette here, where we're looking at resources and the actual physicality of getting these Chromebooks, getting teacher devices, understanding how we start a hardware cycle where we always have the ability to have the newish enough products where we can teach our kids those next generation skills. And this is hoping we're building the foundation now.
So Wes, just based on the plan that you shared tonight, how is that connected to, so this is under the anticipation that you're going to have the devices that you need foundationally to start that cycle and to ensure kids have what they need for the fall. It's not
Absolutely.
necessarily what we have in district as of yet.
Yeah,
hardware alone. Yeah.
as of right now, like understanding the idea that 4th through 8th, we currently cannot provide that. We currently can't provide K through 3 with Chromebooks in the room. We currently can't provide these until I can get more resources into the district.
And that's not just financial, right? So there's the financial piece of it that, of course,
Yeah.
that's variable, but right now there's also a shortage of resources.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't want to say my famous words, my famous line, but there is a shortage of something in the world, and it is hard to get these resources too. And every district in the country is buying the same things at the same time. We were able to be lucky where we were able to get an infusion of new devices before SBAC testing that was able to get us through. And now we're trying very hard to get stuff in the district before next school year starts.
So I don't make it sound as good, but the world semiconductor shortage is part of the challenge, right? that you would be faced, even if financial resources were not an issue, just the actual resource itself is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm working with distributors right now where I'll say, oh, I need 1,000 Chromebooks. And they're like, great. Do you need them next Christmas? Right. And I'm like, so this is what we would like to do. And we will start this cycle hopefully next year. If we do run into issues, we will problem solve as we go along the way. But this is the beginning of laying that foundation to begin these cycles.
As you're saying that, I love the fact that you said 4 through 8 must use the same kind of district manage. And I understand that age group and why and the teachers. Would there be a way, if you didn't have enough for all the other plans you have, to at least start those children out so that they could begin the year that all have the district managed Chromebook? Because you know how that grade that age
Yeah,
group.
I mean, and to be honest, it's kind of a numbers game right now.
Okay.
I can't say yes or no. I would say it would be super razor thin close.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what we would work all summer to do.
Yeah, because starting one way and switching is hard. Yeah.
It is definitely.
So I just had a question about the technology related to the curriculum, and maybe this is, Corey, a question more for you, but given the regular world of in-person learning, is there a curriculum expectation for the amount, say, a 4th grade or a 5th grade teacher uses the technology? Is there outlined for teachers, or does it vary between a teacher's, sort of comfort level with device and platforms? And is that okay to have like a big variance between maybe 4th grade classrooms at different elementary schools for how much they use the technology versus paper pencil?
Those are really good questions. And I know that moving forward out of this weird time when we've used technology in a way, especially at the elementary level, that we never did before, there will be shifts and changes, and that will be part of the collaboration between curriculum and the schools to make sure that we calibrate and go back to those best practices. We know how important paper pencil is to the development. There are many connections between handwriting and your brain, and especially early learning. It's really important that kids are handwriting. So I'm not worried. Even now, I've been in classrooms, and I know that Linda Johnson has also been in classrooms this year, and I'm not worried already. That's not a concern. So I don't anticipate that's going to become an issue next year, because it isn't now. But I do think that you're right in terms of recalibrating around where we feel like technology has the most impact, and where we feel like it's not necessary, or perhaps, doing the opposite. But I think that's just really a regroup, and that is the work of the curriculum departments alongside teachers to engage in that study. There is some new research. There are some things that we've learned that we might want to keep, but in general, I'm circling a little bit, but I think overall I answered your question. Yes, we will work together to make sure that we're calibrated on that, but hopefully we'll be smarter this time around, because we have found some really amazing platforms that work in small doses.
What's interesting though, Nora, about your question though, somewhere in there, I think I heard, is it going to be up to the teacher, or are we going to allow for different school experiences based on the teacher's comfort level? And I think what this year has done by force is people had to get comfortable pretty quick with a lot of different platforms. And so the learning curve that was there of the past, where some teachers were very, very in tune and very quick with technology, or perhaps far more willing to explore, and others not. I think that leveled itself out in many ways. But what Corey shared, I think, is really insightful, is that where do we see the most impact with technology? And let's come together about identifying those experiences across that curriculum area, which means across every teacher of every grade, of that particular grade level, across every school. Because if it's a part of the curriculum, then it's not an extra thing. That doesn't mean that teachers aren't going to be creative or try new things, because they will, and we hope that they do that. But when it comes to the actual assured experiences that we expect, and our teachers know that there's a common expectation of where the technology fits in developmentally, and then curriculum wise. And then of course, outside of that, teachers will find creative ways to do things that none of us ever imagined. And then all of a sudden we're in a global pandemic, and we're like, oh my goodness, thank goodness we learned that.
Any other questions? Okay, well then we're going to move
Oh, I think
on.
Rachel may have a question, because she's using her phone and the video.
Oh, I don't see Rachel. I'm sorry.
There she is.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I apologize for those technical difficulties. So I just, I really appreciate the conversation that I hear going on, because these were a lot of my questions this evening. I'm happy to hear that our budget is going to support the best practices to use technology as a tool to learn and bridge experiences. That's what I'm hearing. And also allow for the learning models to have a differentiated approach for our learners, because not all learners are going to be developmentally ready or prepared for this type of transition. But I do think it is good. So two things. First, and I heard you say something about it, Wes, the budgetary impact, right? So do we have an idea of going forward of what the impact will be for the one-on-one model for the district if things need to be repaired or replaced in an un-COVID year? And then my second question is, how is this going to impact further professional development for our staff, as well as implementing the instruction for our students on acceptable use or appropriate use of the device, the time, the management skills? Because I think that's an important piece, which I think the district already does, but if we're looking at a different landscape here of using them differently, how would that change? And maybe that's the part of the digital citizenship that you're talking about.
Yeah, so I'll start with the first question. That's usually the best place to start, with number one. Absolutely. In fact, in my original big presentation I did, the big monster presentation I did to the board, I ended with, I would like to establish cycles of purchasing in the district once COVID's over, once things are back to normal. One of the biggest issues that the technology department has had in Ridgefield historically is it was always, I would call it like a slim Jim budget. It was status quo. And anytime we needed to upgrade or do something, it was always a big hullabaloo, which is what I'm going through this year. And we always kind of wait for something until it's burned out to its absolute limit and it's no longer useful anymore, to the point where it just physically doesn't work. Then we have to replace it. So I want to be smart, because I don't want these years to keep happening where we have to just do these high startup costs to just get us through like the next 8 years. The idea would be, and this would be another presentation to make to the board at some point, and this is kind of a preview because you asked, we would pick 2 grades. I'm looking at maybe 6th or 9th and 9th grade would be the years that students get new Chromebooks. Then as those students move through, they get back to Chromebooks at the end of 8th grade and then throughout their high school career. And then those Chromebooks will go into, let's say, the 4th and 5th grades and then the K through 3. That way, we're not giving 4th graders a brand new Chromebook because it's the first device that they're having one-to-one. We know how younger kids are handling the devices. That way, and then even the other ones, we don't need great Chromebooks for the little ones. They're just using keyboarding skills, graphical user interface. That way, I think we're being good stewards with the technology. So we're keeping it for a long time. We're recycling it. We're being responsible, but at the same time, we're still introducing new technology every year, which then leads me to, let's also establish cycles for our educators and PD for those cycles. So maybe we'll do a 4-year cycle where we look at, this year is high school technology. What are the teachers using? What do they use a Chromebook? Do they use this? What type of platforms are they on? Then we'll get middle school. Then we look at elementary school. Then the 4th year, we look at office technology. Then we start the cycle again. That way, it's not a huge bump in the budget every year to do that. Again, these are pie in the sky, and we would like to start this. And I'm hoping in my slide, we're building the foundation for that is something I'd like to do. Again, it's something we'd have to talk with the board, the full board about, but that is something in the works to then continue this foundation, and then we'll just keep moving forward, hopefully indefinitely, which is what we want.
And, you know, and you've spoken to this, Wes, and I don't want to take up the entire time of the curriculum committee, but when it comes to what Wes described, is all of a sudden now is a sense of urgency, right? We're reacting. Our teachers' devices will no longer be accessible to them by June. So any teacher that's going to be using a device for Bridge, for example, it's no longer accessible. So we don't have a choice but to purchase something. Happening simultaneously, all joking aside, you have this world semiconductor shortage where you can't even find the devices. So, you know, Wes is in the position now of saying, okay, we have to try to find the resources, because otherwise come June, our teachers' devices are done. And we're reacting, and we've been reacting really for the past 1.5 years, right, since COVID, because you remember the conversations that were happening at the board level before COVID, then COVID hit, and all of those conversations basically just came to a full halt. And so here we are doing the best that we can, reacting, but we've spent a lot of money on technology, and yet so think about how behind we were. For as much as we've spent, you still have the director of technology showing you the limitations of the resources that we have and the position that our kids and our faculty and our office staff are in, not to mention the other technologies, which are just boards in the classroom, just so that we can be contemporary in terms of the learning environment that we're offering kids. So there's definitely a great deal of work to do. And, you know, kudos to Wes and the team that are doing this work, but they're doing it through a data mindset. And so when there's any question about why the technology isn't working, when will the technology be out of date? What new technologies do we have, that we have a real clear, memorialized way in which we can articulate that?
Thank you so much for that response. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate, you know, the communication of the plan and of the cycles. And I knew you would have one, and I wanted to ask so that it was put out there so, you know, people could know. And thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. And again, you know, this is, you know, hoping and the creek don't flood. We're hoping that we can move forward with this. Again, I know the joke is the world semiconductor shortage and being able to buy things, but the idea is to start on a good foundation to start these cycles. And just so I'm not eating up the whole time, to answer your second question, absolutely, we are looking to be honest, we've been focusing on this pre-COVID, and again, I think Susie just said, then COVID happened, and then all of our initiatives just kind of got blown up. Is that digital citizenship piece, what's appropriate? This is why moving forward with building that foundation, we're really big on the 4 to 8 using a district device, because there's special software that we can use to properly lock down these machines and monitor them properly that we just can't do right now because of the distance learning scenario, because of the BYOD scenario, which we think is age appropriately focused. It's developmentally appropriate for us as teachers and parents to be able to do that. Whereas in the high school environment, we're saying, okay, now it's time, your early adulthood, we're going to monitor you less on the district devices. And of course, if you have your own device, you're on the BYOD network. But those are conversations that are constantly happening. This is something our 4th and 5th grade teachers were working on pre-COVID, because they were in a mindset of entering into early one-to-one ideas. But again, COVID blew everything up. But yes, it's definitely in the forefront of our thinking.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions before we move on? You're making me feel so great that the first time I've been on top of things. Last year, I bought all new devices in my home, so I feel great. I don't have to worry. But nevertheless, let's move on to our update on the Phonics Collaborative Action Team, and also the phonemic awareness implementation, which
Sure thing.
are two things that are particularly for our literacy curriculum. So
Absolutely.
probably you're on top of that, right?
Yep. So we're going to ask John to bring the slides back up.
Oh, great.
And first, Linda Johnson is going to update us on the CAT. And then I am going to update everyone on the phonological awareness implementation plan.
Thanks, Corey. So again, good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Johnson, Elementary Director, and I'm going to give you a brief update on our collaborative action team that is studying systematic phonics program. And then I'm going to also let you know a little bit about the process that we have outlined and where we are in that process. So John, if you could please move to the next slide. Okay, so our collaborative action team is a representative group, PK2. Members of the team are classroom teachers, teachers of special education, literacy specialists and coaches, and administrators. And what you see here are the characteristics of how our team is working together. And these characteristics are based on the work by Rick DeFore, who is very well known in our educational world in terms of building teams to work together collectively and collaboratively. So the team has a goal that you see here, and that is to study and recommend a research-based phonics program that we will implement across the district in all of our 6 elementary schools. And the 2 programs that we are focusing our work on are Phonics First and Foundations. Both programs are Orton Gillingham based, which provides a multi-sensory systematic approach to teaching and learning of phonics. And the goal of the phonics instruction is to bring a connection to our students learning reading and writing. So we always keep the idea that we're developing readers and writers as we're providing our phonics instruction. John, if you could go to the next slide, please. Great. Okay, so next I'm going to give you a little update on what the process looks like. And what we're doing is we're starting out with a study. We're going to take the time to learn more about both programs that I just mentioned, Phonics First and Foundations. And we're doing that study in a couple different ways. First, the team is engaging in what we call program awareness workshops. And that's when representatives from the company come to our district, of course, virtually right now, and provides information to our team. And what we're learning about are the teaching and learning materials, the resources for assessments, and the professional learning opportunities that the companies provide for districts. Our team has also received some materials to read and review, and we're also hoping to get some sample materials on both resources this fall, so that possibly our teachers might be able to try out some of the materials with our students. All along the way, Corey and I are collecting feedback from our team so that ultimately we can make a recommendation based upon those experiences on which program we think is a good fit, the best fit for our students here in Ridgefield. The team will also be involved in developing an implementation plan, and that implementation plan will include a timeline for which grade levels will take on a new resource, and also a comprehensive professional learning plan. We really want to make sure that we take the time and provide resources so that our teachers feel supported in the implementation of the new resource. So far, the team has met once. We had a kickoff meeting a couple weeks ago, and during that meeting, we introduced our team's goals and the process that everyone would be engaging in. And then just last week, we had an awareness workshop with Phonics First. And later this month, we'll have another team meeting, and then Foundations is going to join us and teach us a little bit about their program. So Corey and I are happy to answer questions.
Well, I have a quick one. That sounded great, first of all, and I love that you're, looking at comparing two different programs. And I just wondered what your plan was for making the decision. Is it the hope that you get it up and running for the fall, and would there be time for the PD for teachers in that regard, or is it further into the future?
So I can answer that. So this spring, we're studying, as I said, through the awareness workshops and some program review material that we're receiving. And then we're going to hopefully try on some of those materials with students in the fall, not to be implementing a full program across our grade levels this fall. So we would take more time to work collectively as a team. And then our goal would be to make a recommendation sometime late in the first trimester. So then we would have time to look at purchasing the materials, developing that professional learning plan, and then look to be implementing the following year. And we would also look to our team to help make recommendations around what that implementation plan would look like in terms of which grades and which year. Do we want to take on all the grade levels in one year? Do we want to have more of a staggered approach where it may be 1 or 2 grade levels at one time? So we would look for our team to help us with those recommendations as well.
And is it a consideration to, or do you do this very much where you talk to other districts and even visit? Because I know that Reading does use Foundations, and I wondered, is that something valuable to observe teachers using the program? And just a thought.
Yes, sure. That's super helpful. Anytime that we have an opportunity to talk with colleagues in other districts, learn about their experiences, we look to do that. So, whether it's the district you mentioned or a couple other districts that we're familiar with, we will reach out to our colleagues. And if we're able to either visit in person or virtually, so that we could see what the resources look like when working with students.
Thank you.
Yes. You read our minds, Nora. We're definitely going to do that. I know it's been helpful for me in the past, and it gives teachers a sense of what it's like in real life, kind of like real kids, real people. What does it feel like? What is the flow? What do the materials look like when kids are actually using them? Sometimes
and seeing how kids respond.
Exactly. Right? When you open a kit, it just kind of, you don't get the same feeling as when you watch kids manipulating pieces and making sounds, or in Phonics First, they use sand, they're making letters in sand, not in all grades, but how does that really look in a real classroom with real kids in a similar district to us? So we have collected the names of nearby districts that use both of these resources. Luckily, they're actually close. So if we can ever go, otherwise they've been we already have districts that will let us visit virtually, which is really, really nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Nora, you took my questions and thank you. They're perfect. Any other questions?
I think I just maybe make a comment because we do have a plan to share an update with the Board of Education. I think it's actually May 10th already.
Yes.
If not May 10th, it's the following board meeting. But I always say that, plans, people can come up with really good plans and are great on paper, but almost always they fall apart in implementation. And so the urgency, I think, to bring into and I have it just as an aside, and I know Corey has felt that since she arrived, the urgency to get a phonemic awareness program into the district and a systematic phonics program across all of our schools is real. But the other real part, and Nora and Rachel and Kathleen, who are all educators, that it falls apart in implementation if it's not thought out really well and given teachers the time to play and to learn and to be sure that they're as confident as they can, so that when they do implement, they feel comfortable transitioning into that space. And so for as much urgency as I have, and I know the team has felt that, we also have to take a step back to be sure that we're doing it well and doing it right. And I commend actually Corey and Linda just got here for pushing back a little bit and saying, people need to be a part of the process, and let's just be sure it's as meaningful as it is. And we're communicating clearly, not just with our faculty, but with our parents also.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree that you don't have the buy-in from those who do it. You need that. So I agree wholeheartedly. Any other questions? I don't see Rachel out there.
I'll just add that that's, a very important part that I'd like to emphasize is the feedback loop. Making sure that we have processes in place where members of our team can provide that feedback. During our team meetings, we want to encourage folks to share what they may really like about a resource or what questions they may have. So, we do value that piece of it, and that's part of the process. And as Dr. De Silva mentioned, that's part of, let's take our time to study it. Let's reflect. Let's see what worked and what might fit, what we have further questions on. So we'll make sure that we can continue to do that.
And if I can add, it's just interesting thinking about our previous conversation about all that we've learned in this virtual world. So we're running this CAT. We have almost 30 members. We started a Google Classroom, and we're able to capture every single meeting we're recording and putting on there. We are able to record our awareness session with Phonics First, all of the resources that we want teachers to read and resources from these two companies we're able to post in one place. So we're able to make sure that a representative group isn't missing a thing. So it's so amazing, these new things that we can do to connect us when, this is a volunteer thing for teachers. They are coming outside of their days sometimes or before school in the morning to meet with us. And I know they want to be there, but sometimes you have to bring your kid to school. So that teacher is not missing the meeting because we're making sure that they have access to it. So for us, it's the first time, for me, that I've been able to run a group like that and really make sure that everybody is involved in a way that I haven't been able to involve everyone before. So I just wanted to add that that's pretty exciting.
Thank you. I think you've already kept us updated on the phonemic awareness implementation and the Haggerty program. So I don't know if there's anything new or we can just move on.
There is actually. I did want to, yes, it's really quick. I just wanted you to know that the exciting thing that happened last week was that our reading specialist and our reading intervention teachers were able to attend the Haggerty workshops. They attended the classroom-based workshop, and they attended the intervention workshop. This was all done virtually. Linda and I were able to attend, as were some other district administrators. So we just wanted to let you know that the part of the plan that's so important in implementation is that the crew that's supporting that implementation got that preview. so that they've already had the PD so they can help the teachers in the fall when they're engaging in that professional development. And they already, they're interventionists are working with kids every day, so they have that extra tool that they can use. In addition, we were able to hold a workshop. Ellen Tuckner, who was here last time, talking about this so well. She really has led the work in this area, in this district. She did a workshop for administrators after school. So she gave them a whole awareness workshop, the same workshop that her team, so it was her and her coach and her reading interventionist did that awareness workshop for all pre-K 1, 2 teachers. Pre-K 1 teachers in the district. So a big group of teachers have had the awareness workshop so that they can use the materials, try things out through the end of the year. And then the coaches have been pre-trained in preparation for next year. So it's really been a nice way to introduce the material, introduce what's up and coming, and then get really the troops ready for the fall. Because if you remember, you can't implement phonics without the strong PA foundation. And I think sitting through these workshops myself last week reinforced to me and really brought research together for me in an even stronger way in the past, how important. And they're saying it's not just phonemic awareness, it's phoneme proficiency. That's a new term I learned, phoneme proficiency. So it's the level at which we need kids to be able to manipulate phonemes, and how kids who struggle with that's the underlying cause of reading difficulties. So what we are making sure, as much as we feel that sense of urgency, really what we're putting our focus on is that base layer of the cake. We're not jumping to the next step. We are really making sure that our teachers are fully supported across this whole skill, instead of perhaps parts of the skill that all of us were implementing on our own as best as we could in the classroom because we knew it was important. Now we're all going to have a resource that's going to develop all 8 stages of phonemic awareness. So I feel like it was a very exciting week for us last week, and just how everybody's getting a chance to come along on this journey to get ready for the fall has been very exciting.
Thank you. I so appreciate the systematic and understanding that it's the cart before the horse and all of that. And it seems like you folks are really thinking about it systematically. Nora, did I see your hand up?
She gave a thumbs up.
Oh, a thumbs up. Thank
Yay.
you. Great. Okay. Anything else before we move on to the next? Okay. I think at this point, we're going to look at the updates on the K-12 curriculum work, particularly plans for PE, music, and the visual arts as it's moving forward. I don't know where we are, but just to see us in that continuum.
Sure, I'll start, and then Linda will jump in with elementary art. So earlier this evening, when Wes was talking about the foundational plan, we talked about how that was connected to curriculum, and that's connected to the curriculum of the library media specialists. So that is the 4th essential area. We're going to talk about the other 3 areas right now. So for music, K-12 music, there actually has been a lot of work prior to my coming in developing and memorializing K-12 music curriculum aligned with the standards, but there's still more to be done. So we've done a couple of things. Last time I spoke to you, I talked about how all the essentials K-5 got together in March and filled in a form, though that doesn't sound so nice, but really what they did was they had time to sit together to think about where they are in terms of their curriculum writing goals and where they want to go, what professional development they feel like their team needs, and what resources are now becoming more and more useful to them, especially all the new things that they use this year. So that was our stage 1. And music was a part of that. The next thing that we've done with music is we've brought in Rick Sadlon, who has a lot of experience, and he's worked in this district before. He actually was music director in Darien. he's done a ton of work with the art standards and the development of the art standards. So he is coming in and already has done some work with our K-12 music department. So last Monday, Rick came in and worked with our K-12 music department, first spending some time just talking to them about what our goals are for K-12 music curriculum. And then they started working on a draft of a vision for that department. And then he was able to spend a little bit of time with the K-5 music teachers. So moving into the next 6 weeks, he's going to be working with a representative group of music teachers to continue in that curriculum writing process. And as you know, writing curriculum, especially when you think about music and all the different areas, I kept losing track. Wait, we need strings, we need, or, which strand are we working on? So it's not going to be done right away. And there is work that's already been done, but they have been able to catch up on where we are, set short-term and long-term goals. And we have Rick to help us with that work this summer. So that's music. So very exciting to see, and very exciting to see all of the music teachers together in one place and really to hear them speak about their department. They're very, very passionate about their department. Okay, that was music. PE is really we're just beginning to do the similar work with PD. We've collected their feedback from K-5. We're meeting with them as a representative group next week, and we are bringing in someone to help them and help us organize their curriculum to start looking at the standards and memorializing all the things that they do well into a cohesive K-12 curriculum. And then, Linda, did I jump and you were doing music and you're doing art? Okay.
Right on track. Visual arts.
Okay, go ahead.
Very, very similar, brief update, similar to what Corey was saying. Our art department, visual art teachers at the elementary levels met during the month of March. Becky Laus, our assistant principal at Barlow Mountain Elementary School.
Principal.
Principal. Our principal at Barlow Mountain, who happens to have a major in art history, is leading some of that work. So last month, in March, Becky met with the elementary teachers and did similar work that Corey just described, where they took a look at their current curriculum, what they've been working with, started to talk about, again, short-term and long-term goals around what they would like to accomplish as a department. Very similar, across content areas and all essential areas. We're going to be looking at creating that common vision. What do we believe in? What do we value as a department? How is that aligned to our district mission, our vision of the graduate, so that we, can keep that calibration in the work that we're doing. So I recently jumped in. I met with Becky this afternoon. She filled me in on that work. Took a look at some of the, the information that she's been collecting, and we started to build goals together. And then what we'll do is also look to another colleague who we've been working with around developing curriculum in the visual arts to come in and give us some guidance. And then eventually we'll pull our teachers together to work on continuing that work around our department vision and how we want to memorialize the curriculum for the visual arts.
So we do have a K-12 vision, but we are starting to focus really at the elementary area to begin. We have Linda here, and we've already got some momentum moving at the elementary level. So that's going to be the focus into June. But then moving into the fall, we're going to bring in the entire department, and we have been working with the high school art department as well, and setting goals and thinking about what's to come next year, and really how we can build a really clear K-12 vision and help market it and help build pathways, not only through math. We've been doing so much math work lately, thinking about the pathways kids can take, but what about through art and through music, helping kids imagine themselves in elementary school, in art classes in high school. And sometimes we forget that they can't envision what that looks like. So how can we bring that bring that to life. And that really is one of our big department goals in art.
Nora?
Well, I just want to thank you and say that I just appreciate the thoughtfulness that all three of you really have around the curriculum and where things are moving. And I can see just the, I really love how the teachers are a big part of every step of the way. And I think that, you know, taken from what Kathleen said earlier, that buy-in piece, so important, but it also just shows how much, you know, you value the educators, and it just comes through in everything you all are saying. And I just, I think it sounds fantastic, the thoughtfulness of and the continuity that you're establishing.
Thank you. Thank you, because that's true. We really do. And we really feel like that's our biggest capital here is the people, just like we said last time after bringing Ellen here. And there's a lot of strong human capital, and it makes this work enjoyable. And it also just gives things traction because people bring so much to the table with them. So we're really not starting from the beginning. We're just revising, aligning, coming back together. Teachers are so happy for the opportunity to talk across grade levels and to meet together and to get that time. And of course, we've spent over a year responding to something that we couldn't help. So it almost, you know, it's kind of finally back to normal, thinking about what does art look like in high school. That's fun to think about because I don't have to worry about, does my computer work today and can I get in the Google Meet? So we are thankful for that.
And truly, our teachers, they're the experts, right? They know the standards, they know the curriculum, they have the experience in seeing how students respond to how they've been teaching. So, you know, they're just invaluable. And to listen in a very short time, how much they own their work, how proud they are of it, and how the kids respond to the work that they've been doing with them is truly remarkable. And I think that's what's going to continue to build the strong curriculum that's in place here in Richfield.
Any other questions?
I just want to reiterate and piggyback off of what I heard Nora say. I couldn't agree more. You know, I hope the community understands that this is a huge undertaking. As a district, I'm so happy to see where we are going, what we're putting in place. Just the thought on implementation, the meaningful process, the need for buy-in. That's also important, right? In the end result, we want the best outcome for our students. And that'll then follow through with our mission statement and what we truly believe as a district. But, you know, this is what leadership to me looks like. And I just can't wait to see all of this work at its endpoint. I know it's ongoing and I know it's going to take a while, but I am very appreciative. And as a board member, I am very supportive because I know in the end that this is what's best for students and best for our community. So thank you.
Thank you. And just to add on, similar work is happening 6-12. The same work that we talked about, K-12 across the essentials, we're working 6-12 right now, really to start that alignment and vision work. Some of it addressing perhaps some learning loss and some of it just addressing collaboration, alignment, movement, 5th to 6th, 8th to 9th, all those normal things. So that's also going on.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback that, you know, the 3.5 years I've been on the board, I just so respect the fact that you've brought these groups together, particularly in the essentials, so that they can collaboratively talk to each other and respectfully explain to the community and come together on why each of these essentials work for the school community as a whole and each of our children, and work K to 12. So this is so important because there's been so many questions. This is good work. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, as I think we're almost done,
Yep.
and I so appreciate this. And just I've seen some notes already on the summer bridge program. It looks like you guys are gangbusters, but if you have anything to say, let us know.
Yes, it was very, very well advertised at the elementary level. We had almost 1,000 responses. So our work registration closed today at the elementary level. So our work is to go through the registration requests and see, look at building plans, classrooms, and see how we can maintain our vision, because it's amazing to see the different directors at the elementary, the middle school, and the high school level, how their leadership has grown and how their creativity has grown as they're describing these courses that we have to create, because we can't not have kids engage in these change projects at the middle school, and the theme weeks at the elementary school, and these intensives at the high school. So it's really up to us to see if we can make the staffing and the buildings work. Locations might change a little bit as we figure that out. We gave ourselves a deadline, hopefully not too ambitious, to let parents know about registration by the 14th, I believe, of May. And really that's just our next step, is doing that sorting. And thankfully our teachers are volunteering to work this summer. So that's great. But for elementary, there is not a slow session. We have full sessions across the way, and we will do our best to accommodate everyone. We just have to start counting and sorting. We really don't want large classes. So that's very, very important to us, because it just won't have the feel that we're trying to create. We're not trying to create normal school. We're trying to create this alternate experience that has a little school layered in. Like vegetables in a brownie. We just want it to feel more like a brownie. And that's what we're working on.
I so thank you. And unless there's other questions, I want to respect our time, because it's now 8 o'clock.
Oh,
I like to be respectful of that. So is there anything anybody, and I just want to thank you. It sounds fabulous, but anybody else have anything? Thumbs up, Nora. Okay. Rachel? Anybody else? Well, we're 8 o'clock. Everybody can go eat. and I just thank again the administration, and all the work that you've been doing with the entire faculty and everyone else. So, any other comments? No. Okay. Then thank you, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes, for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.